Okay, everyone. So we are about to start. Still have last people coming in. Seems that the mic is working all right. Very happy about that. Right, so everybody, welcome to Tribe of AI, Artificial Intelligence for Everybody. This is our 18th meetup. I see I trained you very, very well. I think at about like meetup number 10, we decided let's have this applause to like congratulate ourselves for being here. So who is here first time? Quite a few. We always have like quite a bit of new people. So let me explain. This is why we have this like initial explanation slides. So first of all, about me, that's me. Mostly I do two things. I do Tribe of AI or try to organize things as best as I can. Also, I work as a machine learning team lead at Vinted. These are the consultants. These are the sponsors which I managed to get to help out this like small community, Tribe of AI. So thanks them very much. We don't usually do applause, so let's continue. Initially in the plan today, we have an introduction, what the Tribe of AI is all about. Then we'll have a presentation, AI transformation, how to start using AI in your company. Finally, the best and most important part is networking. We have like pretty unique set of people gathered in here. Everybody who is usually starting out in their AI journey. We have a meetup where we have like for more advanced people. We have some like general overview sessions, but this is the meetup for people who are just starting out, but who are like rather serious about learning what this AI thing is all about. So first, let me start with the introduction. Tribe of AI is these three things. First of all, we do meetups, we also do a bootcamp, and we do workshops. So let me tell you about the meetups. You are actually in one right now. The meetup, the main idea for the meetup is that you can start learning about AI with no prerequisites. You don't have to have a PhD in whatever to start like learning about it, and you don't have to be like in the industry to attend these meetups. All of these meetups are designed for people to be accessible, even if that's your very first time here. The structure is that we meet every month. We do this like community sync. That includes the networking part, which is like very important. So you can sync up with like what's on the like communities, what's in the community's mind. Also, this is the platform for any announcements which we might have. It is targeted for AI beginners, but occasionally we see people from workshops, boot camps, other friends of Tribe of AI. Mostly it is still targeted towards beginners. Also, I am usually the speaker. It is much more easy for me to do it this way. There are like so many topics which like I can myself pretty like confidently explain, and therefore I don't really want to like involve a lot of people and a lot of hassle in like getting a speaker to explain some kind of basic beginner level concept, or like deliver this like simple presentation. We also have the bootcamp. Bootcamp is all about the main idea of the bootcamp is to prepare you for the real life. It might be a job, it might be startup, it might be competition, but we are focusing on really making you an AI expert or making you capable of using this technology in the real world, as opposed to like learning for fun, learning as a side project, learning to keep your whatever mind sharp. It's all about bringing practical value. We have some principles for the bootcamp. It is structured, it is very intensive, it's very practical, active, and social. What that means in practice is that we spend about 15 hours per week. That's like our minimum commitment, which the participants of the bootcamp have. We also meet 3 times per week. We learn in total for 18 sprints, which means 36 weeks. So that also means 9 months. It's quite a lot, right? And in the end, people deliver one capstone project. Unfortunately, the meetup is like the first meetup was quite like it's going quite well for quite a while, and we are in the final stretch. So therefore, I'm working on the AI Bootcamp 2.0. That means that in probably like next or the next meetup, I'm going to announce the start date for the next bootcamp. So if you're interested, just keep an eye on when this next bootcamp is going to start. By the way, if you at any point, at any time have any questions, just raise your hand and say, I have a question. It's more of a, not really a big presentation. It's more about discussing the things which I'm presenting. So if you have a comment or question, please raise your hand and we'll talk about it. Right? Perfect. Final project or final product which Tribe of AI has is AI workshops. Actually, today I want to talk a little bit with you about our workshops. The goal or the idea of the workshops is to give you a path to AI expertise. What that means is that we do not create content, try to be practical and social, try to maximize your success rate, and we try to use agile and lean principles. In practice, it means that we meet every Saturday. You learn at home, we sync up during these meetings. You're all divided into various classes depending on your skill level. We have currently 7 classes. Am I right? 7, right? Yeah, so we have 7 classes, which if you are let's say you are a machine learning engineer and you want to improve further, so you should go to a B class to learn deep learning, and then to an A class to do advanced deep learning. Finally, S class is very tall leads to. It's the class where you just work on your AI projects. It can again be competitions, it can be these homegrown startup ideas, anything you like, but now at that point you have the required technical knowledge to do something useful with artificial intelligence. Any questions about that?
What's the cost of the classes?
We'll sure talk about it. Also, one more question?
I have a question. I see that the structure has changed over the past year. I believe there's a new layer, data science, that didn't used to be there.
Yes.
So could you summarize why you introduced a new class?
Okay, so we actually have not 1 but 3 new classes. Every class which we had except for S was split into 2. The main reason, except there was some pretty much lots of iterations happened in the last year. So why did we have these changes? It was initial attempt to make the classes a little bit easier and a little bit shorter, because previously some of the classes went for 25 weeks. So that's months and months. It's more than 6 months, right? So that was one class, like the longest. I think the B class was about this long. So it was pretty intense. And now it's kind of much more modular, so you can start learning, like achieve, like build your project, pass the class, have some rest if you want to, and then sign up for the next class. So, are we clear?
A and B classes have both been split into two, right?
Yes. Also, the C class was refactored into being accessible now for people with some programming experience, but without Python knowledge. One more question?
So it's like Stripe is like academy, more or less, like what I'm hearing from, like, okay, this is meetup, but
Yeah, because it doesn't
this
say
workshop,
here's.
another is like more or less like your schooling, teaching, academic.
Yeah, we do a lot of sure. So we try to do a lot of educational stuff. Why do we do that? Because nobody knows anything about AI. We have to, like, somebody has to teach people what this thing is, how to learn it, how to make use of it.
So it's like introduction, which leads to the classes.
You mean this meetup?
Yeah.
Not really. It's just general presentation of what the community is all about. So big branch of the community is in the workshops. Therefore, like, a lot of people come here to learn more about workshops. So I kind of have to present more about workshops. Yes.
And do you guys do collaborations with some experimental ideas using AI to do some?
I'm not like, sorry, I'm not really following, but we can surely discuss that in the networking section of the presentation. All right? Cool. So I don't see any more questions. Can we continue? Right. So the structure of the workshops is that we have about a commitment of 8 hours per week. We meet on Sundays. We have this flipped classroom idea that we learn at home and we sync during the meetings. So there's pretty much impossible to find any good, like, even liberally structuring any course that you can find online. Even if you take the best parts of that, you still have to do a lot of adjustment to, like, suit the best practices. This is like a really unique time in this field, that we don't really have the material good enough to cover everything what's happening. Like, things move so fast that we don't have a way to actually cover everything for you to be, like, seriously job ready or whatever, project ready. That said, we are going to announce, like, after this meetup, I'm going to announce new classes. So I'm still looking for, like, I'm still in the next, between now and the next meetup, I'm going to start 3 new classes. The B class, which is starting, like, really soon, in a week, I think. Also BNF classes, which we don't, oh, I'm so sorry, it should be B and E class. My bad. So I'm going to post the correct class schedule on Facebook and on Slack. So 3 new classes are going to start before the next meetup. So if you're interested in that, please follow Facebook and meetup.com. Also, I wanted to discuss one problem which we've been doing these workshops for a year and a half now. Workshops always, they're free. Unfortunately, lately I have started to see some problems. The problems mostly come from lack of motivation of the students. Like, main 3 problems is that we have quite a bit of a dropout. Classes are hard. People don't like hard things. Unfortunately, programming is hard. If you want to learn, you have to work hard. So one model which I borrow, like, pretty much everything that Tribe of AI does. So we have, like, quite a few packages. We have some open source stuff. So everything that we do is free and ideally open source, except for the bootcamp. And I kind of got a bit inspired by pretty much stellar attendance of the bootcamp in the like 11 months, no, not 11, in the maybe 9 to 10 months, which while we have the bootcamp, we only lost one member. So I was kind of super impressed, and bootcamp is even harder than the workshops. Like we have more than 15 hours per week commitment. So I got a little bit inspired by the fact that money motivates people, especially losing money or paying money for something motivates people. So I kind of thought how to make this still free, ideally, but not really. So the idea which the proposed solution which I came up with is maybe, and I kind of like what's coming next is want to hear your voice. I don't really want to do anything that will hurt the community. I'm perfectly happy with keeping the workshops as is. At the same time, I want to see what you people think. What do you think would be the best next steps for the workshop? The proposed solutions which I have, which you'll find in the link, is that you might pay for the workshops, and after you pay, if you graduate, you get your money back. So we are kind of keeping the money. If you decide to go lazy and absent without official leave and not finish the course, that's your punishment, that you will lose the money which you paid. There is an even more advanced version of that. We also want to make this thing social. So either you all graduate, then you all get your money back, or if some of you fail, then you all lose the money. So that's I think, I'm not sure if that's against Geneva conventions, but that's a more social and more harsh idea which I came up with. And of course, there has to be one there you just pay for the workshops, and Tribe of Flag keeps all the money, spends it, I don't know, on I'm still waiting on some good ideas. Where should I put the money if I had it? But since everything is free, that I didn't have this problem. I want to buy tools from time to time. So this forum software, I guess I'll figure something out. Also, of course, keep the current model as is, but figure out some other way to increase the motivation. That's still on the table. So you would do me a real solid if you could cast your vote. What do you think will increase the motivation, and how to best do it? I will probably check on this link in a week. I'll also post it on Facebook and see how the community reacts. So now comes the good part, presentation, AI transformation, how to start implementing AI in your company. This whole presentation is anybody knows who this person is, Andrew Ng? Who knows who Andrew Ng is? Only a few people. So Andrew Ng has this famous machine learning course. That's his, I guess, first path to fame. The best machine learning course. Unfortunately, I think it's now about 5 or 6 years old. Then, not a lot of people know, but he's one of the co-founders of Coursera. Also, he's one of the best lecturers in Stanford. Also, he was the head guy of Deep Brain and Google's in general artificial intelligence play. So he was the main artificial intelligence person in Google. Then Baidu kind of poached him, and he was leading artificial intelligence in Baidu. Now he started his own consulting company, Landing AI, which helps people and companies, I guess, transition from this non-AI to AI state. And he has a pretty amazing book called AI transformation playbook, which most of this presentation is based on. At the same time, me at Vinted, we are actually using this playbook to transition to this AI company. So it's kind of, this presentation will be a mix of my lessons, my practical lessons learned, with the information. We are not like fully throughout the whole process yet, but it will be my personal experience from my job. Also, in addition to that, presentation of the ideas in the AI transformational playbook by Andrew and G. So our plan for today is like the book itself is based, like it's kind of consists of these 5 parts. These are the five parts. The initial idea is to start small, working on some small projects, show that we can actually do it, find the roadblocks which are there. After we get the initial success, build the team. Once we have a team, do it like more seriously, like have training, develop a strategy, finally communicate your success inside and outside the company, work in this like communication framework. So the first step is execute pilot projects to gain momentum. Anybody works in a like startup or like smaller company, right? So there does anybody else work? Anybody who works here in a company? Oh, many more people, thank God. I thought maybe you're all like looking for work here. So first idea is execute pilot projects to gain momentum. This is quite controversial. Andrew and G even said that, look, a lot of people think that develop an AI strategy should be the first thing, right? Kind of intuitively, I guess, or on paper, it makes sense. How can we do the projects when we don't have a strategy, right? We should start from the strategy. Unfortunately, that doesn't work. If you start with the strategy, you kind of create these grandiose plans for how this AI will change the company throughout. Then it turns out that you don't have what it takes to actually do that. The project gets branded as a failure and the company stays a non-AI company. So that said, we actually, luckily for us, we knew about this thing. We kind of intuitively invented like before even learning about this book or about the process, like we kind of intuitively had this idea that we should start small, have this idea to prove traction, and only then like invest more in it. The very, very first sentence in the book says that it's more important for first projects to be successful than to be the most valuable. This idea is super important because AI, on paper, like these machine learning techniques which we can use, on paper we don't look like super hard. They look doable, but there is lots of complexity, mainly because the company, like usually the company in which you work, if it hasn't had this AI transition happened yet, you are not going to be ready. In Vinted, we were as, like, if I go look back, we were as ready as you can be. We had so many good things going on. We had data warehouse all set up, all prepared, all full of data. We had very strong business unit, like the business people knew what we are doing and kind of guided us through this thing. We still had quite a bit of issues and quite a bit of challenges actually implementing that. So the objectives of a pilot project mostly are to gain familiarity with AI. It's kind of super easy to think, oh, like this thing, it's like I have done a pilot, like I have done a side project on this idea, I just make it bigger and it will all work out fine. Turns out that there's lots of things in production which you have to take into account, like data security, all this GDPR type of regulations, protecting your user data, latency. Your model cannot be like super slow or only respond like after 1 second. There's lots and lots and lots of things. Like even in the end, even the networking costs that if you're sending your data somewhat far away, you'll have a lot of networking costs just associated to using machine learning. So a lot of things are hidden, and for a data scientist, when you're just starting out, where you just like pretty much, the only thing that you have done is trained a very, very good model, but it kind of like you all did that in a notebook environment, and your notebook has this amazing accuracy, but it's in the notebook. So that's, I don't know, like not even half of the job. Like the rest 50% is making this thing work in production. So to gain the familiarity with how these things work in production, pilot projects are perfect, because they kind of force you not to focus too much on the actual models or on the actual business value, but you're mostly focusing how to make this new paradigm, how to make this new thing available or enabled in your company. So all these things, this is what you get. These are the objectives of your pilot projects. How to choose the pilot project? So we had this, like actually Andrew and G suggests a time scale of 6 to 12 months. They actually chose an even smaller time scale. We wanted to really iterate fast. In the end, we chose a bigger, did it die? No, it's all right. In the end, we chose a bigger project after a couple of initial successful projects. So that's like to really showcase more business value and more difficult machine learning project, which is probably going to take us about 12 months. We also have, you also have to have a very, very clear objective and very low uncertainty. That means you have to exactly know how you're going to build this thing. Otherwise, it's going to get really out of scope and the project might get killed because you're not showing any, promise or any progress for a while. So it's very, very important to have technical feasibility and especially the low uncertainty part in mind while you're delivering this, while you're pitching your ideas for a pilot project. I keep saying technical feasibility. Of course, your project has to have business value. If you're just doing something gimmicky, which you're probably making a life better for 10 users, nobody's gonna care, and your project, even if successful, is going to be deemed a failure because it doesn't add any business value. So there must be the sweet spot where it's still technically feasible and comparatively easy, but adds a noticeable value that the project, if completed till the end, will prove to be successful. The next part is build an in-house AI team. What do you think about this structure? First of all, we do the project, then we get the team. How does that even work? Any ideas?
Does one person complete the project?
That can be right. One person can complete the project. How else?
Is a company from multiple sections or maybe departments, and only after successful project is delivered, only after that section for artificial intelligence.
So I get what you're saying. What he's saying, if I might just rephrase a little bit, use your existing talents to do the initial project. You must have, even in Vinted, we have a lot of data scientists who were capable of doing this initial project. So we didn't even have to start with the machine learning engineers or AI engineers. We had some local talent which we could use to do the initial models. So that's two alternatives. Just hire one person or use your existing talent. What else?
What about outsourcing?
Very good. That's the third pillar. You can hire consultants to do the initial project. Actually, when I think about it, we actually done all three. We have used existing talent. We have hired this small, very small team, and also we used an outside lead. They actually tackled this problem from these all three possible approaches. Had some limited success with consultants, but it was the hardest project. We kind of had a little bit of a business value. It leaned toward more business value rather than technical feasibility. We also had a little bit not enough business value for the using existing talent, and I think we got the right spot with the smaller machine learning team, which now has grown. So building the AI team, that's the second step. So after we get the initial success, it's much easier to argue for hiring more people, or for building the team, or for building, the organizational structure where this team has to be inside. We have org structure. If this team is like somebody's fifth most important task of some of VP of engineering, it's never going to get traction because nobody's going to take this thing seriously. So it's very important to showcase, look, we have some successes, they are generating value. What could these guys do if we had not 3 people but 20 people? So it has to be very clear that hiring makes sense and that building a team is worth it. So the main reasons why don't we use or why Andrew and G suggest not to use consultants all the time is, first of all, you get much more efficient, in terms of full dedication to your company, and at the same time in terms of cost, having your internal team is much more efficient. At the same time, you will get, if you hire outside consultants, it will be pretty hard to have this unique competitive advantage. You don't own this expertise, you just hire this expertise, and then the project is done. You are pretty much left with no actual learnings, no actual expertise stays in your company. Finally, you have some domain knowledge, which will be pretty hard to communicate to outside consultants. Even if they are the best in the world, they might not know your business as well as you do. And of course, finally, knowledge sharing inside your company. You must, you probably have some people who can be taught this artificial intelligence or machine learning. But if you don't have internal people who can do that, there's not going to be this knowledge spillover happening in your company. Of course, there are some challenges with building the AI team. It's really hard to find experienced AI people. You also have to have a chance at hiring. You have to have a pretty good buy-in from the top management, and you have to have some person who is responsible, who is dedicated to having this AI transformation. If it's going to be if you don't have anybody in the C-level or top management or VP level, you're probably not going to achieve that, because it's going to be really hard to break through all these walls, which AI is going to stir the pot in your company. You have to change a lot of procedures, you have to change a lot of things, which we're working really fine. People optimized how the things work right now, and then the AI team comes along and they say, oh, we cannot work with that, we cannot do that, we have to use this special hardware, which nobody uses GPUs for for serving any website. Now AI people have to have GPUs for running machine learning models in production. So all of these things are going to put some strain on your organization, and having a high-level manager really helps a lot. And this is what we've seen in our company. this really changed where we kind of had a dedicated person to do this thing. You have a question?
Yeah, what do you mean exactly by getting a buy-in from top management? Could you explain a little bit more?
Sure. So like it kind of throws all into this. You have to change a lot of stuff. A lot of the parts of the company are not going to be like super happy that like other teams are making their job more difficult. But if we have a buy-in from the top management that, you know, your CEO says, look, we have to really focus on this AI thing because it's going to make us more like stay more competitive. It will like let us build more defensible position in the business. Then everybody's kind of understanding that we have to make these sacrifices or I guess work harder or change our processes because this is very important. Yeah, one more question.
What do you mean by hiring a dedicated C-level executive? Doesn't this fall under the purview of the CTO?
Yeah, very good question. So Andrew Ng actually argues that you could hire a person, CAIO, like Chief Artificial Intelligence Officer. It might be a CTO, it might be CIO, as in Chief Information Officer. There are like so many C whatever O's in availability that the most important, like what they say in the book, the most important aspect is that this person really has to get it. This person really has to be knowledgeable and understand how this AI thing actually works to make a real impact. So if it's a dedicated CAIO, this person, like that's in the job title. They have to make this AI happen in the company.
So
If it's
do you
CTO,
need to hire a separate manager for this?
you have to hire a separate person, or if you're
Did Vinted need to hire a separate high-level manager for this?
I'm not really sure how much can I share. I can only tell that we have right now a person who is doing that. Right, so let's continue. The responsibilities of the AI team. So first of all, we really need to have the capacity to do the AI projects. So whatever has to be done, this whole jungle has to be cut down. So that's the build the AI capacity. Execute pilot projects, pretty obviously. Pilot projects is like step one. You started with some AI projects with like whatever, using existing resources, using consultants. Now continue doing that with the dedicated AI team. Develop all these recruiting practices and machine learning platforms. Anything that will help you to achieve longer success. All the infrastructure has to be laid in place to support more and more artificial intelligence people coming to your company. So you first have to figure out a way how to hire these people. Also, you have to figure out a way how to make these people productive. So that's the job of that like initial AI team. After you have that, you are in a pretty good spot, I would say. You have a team, you have some pilot projects. Now it's time to celebrate your success and do nothing else. Actually, no, you have to still continue working, and the next part is to do the AI training. This also is quite like this book is then you see the whole structure. Initially it really doesn't make sense, because now once you have the buy-in, you have to have the buy-in from the top management in the previous step. Now you're going to do the trainings for the executives and business leaders for them to understand the value of the AI in your company. It's kind of almost feel that it's going backwards, but what it feels like in practice, that you're pretty much making this loop again and again, and this loop at every single like iteration is getting stronger and stronger. So initially, you still had to make this first project. You still to have somebody to do it. You still had to have some buy-in from the management to make it happen. Now you're doing that in a much bigger level. You have this targeted AI trainings. First of all, for the executives, first what you have to do is to explain what AI can do, how it can change the business you're in, how it can make some things which were impossible possible, and how you can have like because everybody's kind of rushing towards this like new things which we can do, how you can, what would it mean if you are the first who actually implements this in your product. Also, the next step is these people have to start working on your like bigger AI strategy. That's going to be the next step, and they should make anything that we can to enable the AI team to work more effectively. So these roadblocks, they continue. The team is growing. New roadblocks comes along. Top management and business leaders are the ones who are going to like enable these roadblocks to be like removed. Let me think of like what concrete roadblock. We had like so many of those, but let me think, what could I share? We started using like cloud computing much more with the rise of the AI team. Initially we had a pretty good capacity at home, but like later when the AI team started to grow, it became like really crowded to use our dedicated infrastructure, and it seemed quite wasteful to buy so much hardware which just stays idle. So we started like business leaders and executives enabled us to use the cloud much more to like save on money and speed up the whole training process, speed up the whole iteration process. The next target for the trainings are the leaders of the divisions, mostly of the divisions which are going to implement the AI projects. So at this point, you might be already graduating from your pilot project phase and moving into the real business value first type of projects. That means even if it takes, I don't know, a year, but it has insane business value, you can go for that project. So these business leaders have to communicate, have to talk with the teams under them to be able to like cooperate with the AI team to make these projects happen. Andrew Ng has an example. So first, initially, when he started working in Google, he didn't go for using AI on search. He first of all used AI for Google Translate. It's not very core business. We don't make money out of that, or we do. I have no idea actually, but not directly. They don't make money. But still, they proved that this thing can be improved a lot by using AI. And this is an example of a business division, which leaders had to cooperate and work together with the AI team to enable these types of projects. So this is mostly the phase I would say in which we are in right now. We are starting to communicate with the division leaders about what kind of projects we can provide for the which we can make together with the teams. Also, in the trainings, focusing on business and technical understanding of what the AI can do is the way to go, at least what Andrew Ng recommends. The last training target group is the actual AI engineer talents. They can vary. They can be existing talents they can be newly hired trainees. They can be hired. They can be people hired from like universities. They can be people hired from like working in like regular classical machine learning fields. They can be data engineers, like people usually who worked more that like in the data type of environment can be more easily retrained and become machine learning or AI engineers. Also, at the same time, you should still have trainings for actual hired machine learning engineers, because like as in our practical example, in our like practice, we really never get people who are well-rounded in all the areas of machine learning. We have pretty much everybody has like knowledge gaps which we have to like fill. The next part, like the fourth step, is to develop the AI strategy. So as I told earlier, this thing feels like it's going backwards, but in reality it's kind of a spiral which gets stronger and stronger. I don't know, like a hurricane. Like now, then we have like business leaders agreeing on projects, the AI team in place, some pilot projects which showcase your success. Now it's time, then everybody in the company really understands what this AI is all about. Now it's time to actually build the like long-term AI strategy, which you can use to make your business to place your business in a much more defensible position. And Andrew Ng uses search engines which have like so much information about their users that they can predict what the user really wants to search, like what the user would like to see in the search results, with very, very high accuracy, because we have so many users and we have been doing this for so long that we have a really good defensible position. A new search engine will have an insanely hard time to, trying to out Google, because like it's pretty much impossible. Google has such a dominant position. It's like doesn't feel possible even to chip away 1% of, or I don't know, 1% of the 1% of their users, because probably you're not going to make nearly anything as good as Google, because we have so much data, we have so much knowledge about their users. So that's what's a defensible position. You are very, very strongly entrenched because you use these technologies to gain more insights about the users, to gain more data, and this more data gives you get more insights and get more users. So that's what's like, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. That's the virtuous cycle of AI. It's coming pretty soon. Now I want to continue with the broad alignment. So the AI strategy calls for like not a single thing, but a multiple things which are all going in a roughly same direction. So therefore this broad alignment, even if you have like, you might have like 3 or 4 huge AI plays, like huge AI systems, which all like even standalone, they are very valuable. But if they can cooperate, if they can use insights from each other, it's kind of becomes like this very synergetic effect that each of those large projects reinforces the other ones. And of course, at this part, the AI has to have a really clear value proposition, how these projects are going to give value to your users. At this point, you fully graduate from the pilot phase, you focus on the business value as the main objective. Industry-specific example, industry-specific advantage. Andrew Ng suggests not to try to compete with like huge IT companies such as Google, Microsoft, Facebook, or Baidu, because it's pretty much impossible. You're not going to outcompete them on the general AI. From like what we internally like think, we we should follow the Tesla model is that you should use AI to be ahead of your direct competition. And it's like, I guess it's pretty obvious that Tesla really does it really well. They use AI for their cars, and this usage of this being really good at AI and integrating that into their products gives them a really strong competitive advantage compared to other car companies. I'm not sure if that's still true, but I think last week Tesla has become the largest car manufacturer in the world based on market capitalization. So even though they make so few cars, compared to things like Volkswagen, in market cap they are the largest car manufacturer in the world. So that shows the value of this model. They just use AI to make their product really good, and that's what pretty much what we think the company should do. Use AI to make your company ahead of your competition, because you are able to use AI and other companies are not. So this leads to what I already mentioned before. The virtuous cycle of AI is that your better model means more users. More users means more data. More data means yet better model and therefore better product. And this kind of goes on and on and on. So you have you can extract more information from your user's behavior. You can suggest an even better recommendations. Users love your recommendations, therefore you attract more and more users. Having these more and more users allows you to understand them even better, and this thing kind of continues. So this virtuous cycle of AI is mostly actually focused not about AI but about data. Your models, at some point you're going to approach these diminishing returns, like training your model for 100 more hours. Training the model for the first hour gives you the most benefit. 100 more hours of training doesn't give you that much of an improvement. So having more data usually at this point becomes more important. The model architecture, the model insights are not that important if you can get more users to sign up and build your model based on this more data. The more data can mean qualitatively new data. That means you can use your models to just pretty much understand more of what the users are telling you, or it can mean quantitatively more data. For example, Tesla having more cars get much more different video samples from what the Tesla cars are driving. They might not had a car in I don't know, let's say Iceland. They didn't probably their this self-driving capability was not super good in Iceland because they might have some kind of, or whatever, England, driving on the other side of the road, on the left hand side of the road, might be different for Tesla Autopilot. But once we had enough data of the left hand side drive, they could improve their model to be pretty good on this problem as well. So you can have both quality and quantity, and increase your model performance based on both. What's very important is that this data, which you are constantly generating, it's very important to have it unified. So that's why Andrew and G kind of specifically mentions unified data warehouse. If you have 20 departments, each of them having their own data vaults locked somewhere, which you have to get 20 different people to sign off where you can access the data, it's not going to work. This is the roadblocks which I mentioned that the top management might help you to overcome. So if your data play is not good, if you haven't structured your data in the right way. So this kind of really forces you now to bite the bullet and restructure everything so the machine learning models can do their job. That also creates platform effect and network effect, or actually platform advantage, that your platform has so many users, so many good content that it kind of attracts even more and more people. At the same time, network effect, that it kind of has this thing where you just pretty much similar to what the platform effect says. Just the interaction of the user is going to get qualitatively better than like without having that many users. So that we have like this this effect in my company, where you can have many more things that suit you if you have many more users on the platform. Finally, final step, develop internal and external communications. So once you are past the actual technical implementation, have the projects going on, it's time to kind of use that to your advantage. AI made companies like Google, Baidu, and Tesla much more valuable, and investors might initially see this as a total cost. Even Google Brain was criticized as, pretty much Google engineers wasting tons of money on this childish, AI playing games. However, the learnings from these initiatives allowed Google to be like one of the dominant, or if not the dominant, technology companies, best at this artificial intelligence research, and best at artificial intelligence like infrastructure, etc. So investors, at this point, you should have a pretty easy time explaining to your investors that this AI gives your company more value, because look how much more unique and more defensible and more like a competitive advantage which we have against our competition, which doesn't use this AI. Also, you have to work, like, if that needs to be, you have to work with the government. Usually your consumer data is very heavily regulated. So if you want to if you want to share the data, you have to or whatever, do something with the data, you have to think carefully about what kind of access you might give to somebody. Like, for example, if you want to work with government institutions or universities, it's very important, to anonymize your data. It's at the same time, you can build your unique startup idea based on having this direct communication with the government. If you can get access to some kind of data, you can use your artificial intelligence skills to make some kind of model on that data. It kind of becomes a very valuable proposition for both parties. Government gets your AI solution, you get the data, so it's very valuable for both parties. Then we have consumer education. If you're using AI and it makes your product better, you should absolutely market that to your customers. At the same time, it's very important to very clearly state how their data is being used. You cannot be secretive about AI and just surprise people how much you know about them without them really understanding how you're using their data. A lot of tech companies, especially Facebook, gets Google also, but not in that much, gets criticized for using customers' data in not the most honest ways. So I cannot really say anything about like Facebook or Google, but I think that every company should be really honest about how they are using their data, because most often you're just trying to make your consumer have a better experience. One of the, like me personally, I think one of the most important like things which you can do with your communication is to help, like if you build something and if you have a strong AI team, go ahead and like announce that. Finding AI talent is very hard. If you have a very good employer branding which helps you to attract the talent, go for it. Explain how, like, you know, good it is to how much work you have already done, how much easier you're like, how much value you're going to give to your potential employees, because we join your company, you can have like if you have trainings, if you have initially these machine learning platforms, so these the people which you hire can learn, and also they can really use, if they don't have, you know, lots of skills, they have the ability to learn, and if they do have lots of skills, they know that in this company I can use my skills to make the most impact. Finally, the internal communications. As some of you might know, AI is quite overhyped. I actually have to I do this explanation what AI is so much that it's not even funny. It's very poorly understood. It is like, it's getting, actually, it's not getting better because of the media's like constant merging of robots, artificial general intelligence, and machine learning. All of these things, like things that we use in practice, the AI which is actually being used is like very, very different from what normally gets, like some kind of robots such as Sophia gets portrayed as like being very special AI or something. So that really, you know, doesn't make sense, and it really hurts the community, and it really hurts like in general people's understanding what this AI thing is all about. So it's important that your company understands what this AI means. It doesn't mean robots. It also doesn't mean that you're all going to lose your jobs because some kind of, you know, Sophia type of robot is going to go and be the new, you know, customer support agent or the new marketing person. So internal communications about the, you know, high level AI stuff. The last lesson from Andrew and G is the one from the past. He said that we already had this one transformation. We had the internet transformation. There were software companies before the internet, and then internet kind of disrupted and changed the whole paradigm, like very, very much. So some companies had, they were like regular companies, for example, a shopping mall. Then they got a website, they hired, you know, an intern to build their website. They didn't become internet company. They used the internet, but they didn't embrace the internet. They didn't use the advantages which the internet really offered. So he kind of draws the analogy that if you are a typical company and you just build like a few deep learning models, you don't suddenly become an AI company. You really have to use what these new AI technologies, really embrace what this new paradigm means, really shift your whole business feeling around what this new paradigm can offer you. I even have a quote that like directly from the book, that if you want for your company to become great at AI, you will have to organize your company to do the things that AI lets you do really well. So for me, it means that this embracing of AI, not just, you know, oh, we are using AI, we are also mobile first, we are also very like social first, we are doing everything, but we are not really going all in into this new paradigm. And in summary, to be great at AI, you must have resources to build systematically multiple AI projects. You have to have sufficient understanding of technical and business part of AI, and also you have to have the good strategic direction. There your whole AI play is like actually going. So that's all I have. Now it's time for questions and answers. Any volunteers? It's always hard to be first. You go first.
What do you think about Jack Ma and Elon Musk conversation about AI?
I actually haven't seen this one yet.
Oh, all right.
We also had one more question, yes?
So are there already some good examples in the industry of a company which has successfully transformed itself using AI, or actually is on a good track? For example, Tesla, it has been using AI from the very beginning. So I would say it has kind of not transformed, but it has been using it all the way. But are there examples of transformation using AI?
It's, you know, really hard. Like I wouldn't agree with you that Tesla was AI from the beginning. If I remember my Tesla trivia correctly, they were electric cars from the start. They didn't have anything to do with AI. Then later, like I think just like later under Elon Musk's guidance, they started investing more and more into this autopilot software. There is actually an amazing talk from Andrei Karpathy about how they are implementing the software 2.0 stack in Tesla, and they basically show how they are integrating AI into pretty much everything that they do. A good example is their Vipers. They used to have a sensor. Now they are using the same cameras which we already have to detect rain and to enable the Vipers. So I would say that Tesla had made this transformation. Google obviously made this transformation because AI wasn't really a thing when Google started. Like Amazon is, I think, on the right track. I think Google and Facebook are on the right track. I don't think they are fully there yet, but they're approaching like being these. They're huge companies, obviously. So it's very hard for them to become like fully AI first. But I think that like especially the major, most progressive companies, I think they're very far along towards like in this transformation path. We also have like smaller examples such as Spotify. Spotify seems to be like the European company who is very well progressed towards this AI transformation path.
Who else from Lithuania?
Who else from Lithuania? Spotify is not from Lithuania.
No,
Did that?
who else? But from our country, not from Europe.
We have some companies in Lithuania who actually started as AI first. That means their product really depends on the technologies like enabled by artificial intelligence. I'm not sure if I know of like large company which has successfully transformed like from non-AI to AI. Some of them, they're like the old school AI companies who then move to like using the more modern models, but that's that's a very easy transformation to make if you're just using more classical machine learning and then transitioning to deep learning. It's not that hard. Or I guess it's still pretty hard, but it's not that typical. This path cannot be followed by a lot of other companies. I don't think that I cannot really think right now of a lot of companies who have made this transformation. So yeah, one more question.
What criteria could show that it's not worth for a company to even try implementing AI there?
Wow, very good question. I cannot give you anything official. I have my own, I guess not prejudice, but my own personal ideas. I would say if you haven't got your data play in order, you don't have a data warehouse, you don't unify, you don't, capture what the users are telling you, it's probably going to be extremely hard for you to use any AI solution. Like, for example, in Vinted, when we started, we had amazing data warehouse. Everything was, not only very robust, but also very inclusive. We had so many different data sources coming in. We had so much data, and this whole process was very, very well maintained and established and very reliable. So we had a pretty good starting point, and I would say that without it, I don't think it's actually possible to do anything with AI before you have this pure data thing in order.
But was it done in order to go towards the AI, or was it done just randomly because someone wanted to use that data warehouse somewhere else and just did it, and you came up with the idea of using that data to implement in your AI model?
So for us, it happened data is very valuable even without AI. So you can do data-driven decisions was always a very, very big part of how Vinted done their business. So we had a lot of data scientists and data analysts who are continuously are the main users of the data warehouse. It was just a very, very nice side effect that because of being data-driven earlier, and right now we can use the same artifacts, the same warehouse for our machine learning models. One more question?
Can this theory of AI transformation be applied in government sector, for example, to scale it on a city, on a country level, for example, to make a city transformation or country transformation based on AI? And can it be used, for example, using open data and so on?
I guess this is a very good question for the networking part and for deeper discussion what exactly it means for a city to be AI, because that's very, very different from a company. Company has thousands people, that's pretty large company in Lithuania. Cities have hundreds of thousands of people. It's very different value structure and so on. But let's talk about it during the networking part. If you have to leave, then thanks for being here. I would strongly advise not to, and stay in the networking part. The presentation is over. Thank you very much for coming. See you next month. Sekundę.